One of the final points I'd like to leave with is the impressive, if not progressive, change that came about to the Japanese constitution as a result of the Second World War, which came into effect on the 3rd of May 1947.
Can you believe that this video was 9 months ago? I mean, how many views has it actually got in that time? Oh, 3? Wow, that's really breaking ground, isn't it? It's really popping off when being on the trending page of YouTube, isn't it? I mean, I just sound so disinterested, so monochromatic. It's dreadful. Anyway, that's not why you're here. Let's roll the proper video. No, the proper video from today.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to you all, from those down the road to the folks around the world. Welcome to another Japanese Golden Week video. If you don't know what the Golden Week is, then I would recommend checking out my previous video that I made on the Showa Day, another national holiday as part of the Golden Week, a historical reflection and a look back at the life of the Emperor Hirohito. As you can tell from the video of this title, I will be talking about Constitution Memorial Day, where the Japanese people on a national holiday reflect on the specific day in 1947 when a new constitution was made into law, replacing the old Meiji constitution that was enacted by the Meiji Emperor in 1868. But I don't want to use this time to go through each and every one of the 103 articles of the Japanese Constitution. Even though it makes up 20 pages, 12 chapters, and roughly 5,000 words, which is comparatively smaller than most constitutions, which have roughly 20,000 words, I think that would make for quite a boring video. But let me just take you through at least one of these articles, probably the most profound and most progressive article in any constitutional document across the world. Take it away, old me, who doesn't actually realise he's in a new video and will be critiqued on his performance just 9 months later. Article 7 of the Japanese Constitution, this political and diplomatic change. What this article says is that war would not be used as a solution to diplomatic affairs. There have been similar changes made in Italy and Costa Rica, but this is the first of its kind back in 1947. They still have an armed forces, but this armed forces is just for defence purposes only, to defend Japan itself. I go on to say that there was a slight change to the constitution in 2014, but I didn't explain how. The Japanese constitution has never been amended in its 75-year history. In fact, what the Japanese actually did in 2014 was reinterpret the meaning of Article 9. This interpretation stresses that not only will Japan defend itself, but it will defend its allies as well. America became a sort of lifelong partner of the Japanese after the Second World War. So if you're an American who, as I previously mentioned, are lifelong partners to the Japanese, you are loving this new interpretation. It means that you have an extra ally on side in case of an emergency. You have to be physically attacked by an opposing nation, but let's not dig into too many details. But if you're, say, China or Korea, who still have long-standing feuds with Japan for previous engagements like the Sino-Japanese War or the occupation of Korea in 1910, then you're not going to be best pleased with this new interpretation. Even people and politicians within the Japanese nation are quite sceptical about this new interpretation. More pacifist individuals think that this is a warring stance, that some hidden clause within this new interpretation would lead Japan down this dark path of which Article 9 was supposed to remove them from. And more liberal and nationalist type politicians and people who are proud to be Japanese believe that this new interpretation goes against everything with which the 9th article and the Constitution in itself was supposed to be founded on. Now, the later articles of the Japanese constitution concern itself more with the organs of government, finance, judiciary, and of course, the wider parliament, known as the National Diet. This National Diet is split into two chambers, the House of Representatives and the House of Councillors. Now, with a name like the House of Representatives, you would likely believe that this democratic style of government would be based on an American model. During the occupational period of 1945 to 52, the Allied commander in charge was Douglas MacArthur, an American, and he was in charge of drafting the first constitution in November of 1946. But Douglas MacArthur believed that a constitutional monarchy like that in Great Britain was a better fit for the Japanese people. MacArthur believed that the European absolutionist monarchs of the 18th and 17th centuries were closely resembling that of the imperial eras of Japan pre-Second World War. In order to have this style of government and a constitutional monarchy, you of course need a monarch. In the previous video, I noted that the Emperor Hirohito was spared from the war crime trials of the late 1940s. MacArthur believed that having Hirohito still around would make the transition into a democracy far easier. Most of the articles within the second chapter of the Constitution talk about the rights, the power and the privileges that the emperor has, which is basically he's a ceremonial individual, he can be head of state if he needs to be, although mostly he's just the symbol of Japan and the unity of its people, like I previously mentioned. Now, the final section for me to generalise and discuss are the human rights sections of the Constitution. In 1868, there were plenty of political freedoms, religious freedoms, and general human rights amongst the Japanese people. However, they were limited by the imperial law and the legislation proposed by the National Diet. If you were Christian, you would be able to freely perform Christian duties, but you had to also theoretically believe in the divinity of the emperor. With the new 1947 constitution, this was no longer the case. You could be whoever you want, whatever you want, no matter what religion, race, creed, or gender. And of course, you have the political freedom of expression and the freedom of speech, which was kind of part of the 1868 constitution, but was in a limited fashion. You could only express yourself to a point. And there is the end of this quick, short little video about the Japanese constitution in order to celebrate the Constitutional Memorial Day that takes place every year in Japan on the 3rd of May. This document is not like any other constitutional document in the world. It is profound and progressive in its nature. Well, I certainly hope that you have enjoyed this video and that you have come to learn a little bit more about the politics, government style system and the culture of Japan, because this is after all a national holiday for the Japanese. If you have enjoyed it and learned something new, then please do click the little like button and maybe even give me a quick follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching this on. If there is any more information that you have on this particular subject that I might have missed or I might have gotten maybe slightly wrong, then please do drop a comment down below. I'm sure everybody, as well as myself, would love to hear your thoughts and what you have to share on this subject. There's a couple more videos that I've got coming on this Golden Week, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And all of the videos will be up in a playlist if you're watching this far, far, far into the future. So without further ado, I'm going to finish up the video here and I will see you all in the next video. See you later.